Hi, I'm Laurie, Service Controller for the Truma Technical Support Team. If you've been following our videos on how to install our heating system, you'll have selected your system, you will have selected the location, installed the unit, and you're now ready to commission it. Commissioning is a very simple process. Quite simply, ensure that you have a full tank of fuel, you have your power supply switched on, and your connection to the telephone has been updated, your app is updated on the control panel, and you're ready to switch it on. A manual switch on is actioned by setting the heating to 30 degrees right up to maximum. When you first switch a panel on, it will have a default setting of 22 degrees. It's really important you put it right up to the maximum of 30 degrees on diesel only with no water demand. Heating only is the important point. That will then drag as much power and as much diesel as it needs to commission and start up. The actual commissioning process will take about 5 minutes. You will see a number of errors. These are warnings as opposed to errors. Numbers that you'll see flash up on the screen are 423, 424, and occasionally a couple of numbers related to 500. Some of these will naturally reset. Some of them will require a manual press button to acknowledge that you've taken action. For example, you might have a low voltage warning come up. Just click that you've switched the power on and it will start its commissioning process again. As I said, after about 5 minutes, you'll have lovely warm heating starting to come into your van. Now that we've got the diesel running through and we've started the warmth into the unit, the next thing to do is to check that you've got your electrical system switch on. As I say, the unit is a hybrid and we have the electrical heating function as well. Switch off the heating, so turn your demand down to 0 degrees. Let the fans stop running for a while. Again, this could take a couple of minutes as the fans continue to run. This is just removing any surplus heat from the system and moving any unburnt fuel back into where it belongs. Turn your mains power on. Make sure you have either your shore power connected, your orange lead onto your site. If there's a fuse spur, we always recommend the use of a fuse spur. Flick your fuse spur on. Again, set your temperature demand to 30 degrees and your fuel supply to electric. This will stop the diesel running and ensure you're only using electrical power. Again, within 3 to 5 minutes, you'll begin to get warm air. The fans do not blow as quickly on electric because it's a slightly lower heat than diesel, but you will find ambient warmth coming into the habitation area within a couple of minutes of switching on. Once it's running smoothly on electric, you can then begin to play around with all your comfort settings. You can use the hybrid mode that uses gas and electric together. You can change the temperature, you can flick your water on, flick your water off. Before putting your water on, please ensure that you do have water supply into your tank and that all your drain valves are open in the relevant area. Okay, now that we've got everything running, we've got warmth into the vehicle. There's a couple of problems that we have had phone calls about on the initial commissioning of a vehicle. Normally it's just down to the newness of the vehicle, possibly lack of fuel, lack of voltage, and I'll cover both of these. The first one is when it's running on diesel, you might get a warning that you're low on fuel. It will say out of fuel. The first thing you have to do is check that you do actually have fuel in the tank. If you have removed your sender unit, make sure fuel has been replenished into that sender unit. You might have to turn the engine on, you might have to drive the van back and forward a couple of minutes just to move the diesel around the tank to ensure it does actually get into the vehicle pipework rather than the heater pipework. The heater pipework is secondary. Remember, we removed the sender unit to put the pipework in. That's the next part that you need to check. Assuming you've got fuel in the vehicle, just make sure that your pipe has gone all the way down and is sitting correctly at the bottom of the file. We do recommend just over a finger's depth, 20 mil at the bottom. So just make sure you're not stuck at the bottom. If it's stuck at the bottom, it might be suffocating itself because it's on the bottom. So just make sure you've lifted it up slightly and there's nothing preventing it. The fuel pipe can either sit inside the reservoir or in some outfits it can be sat down the outside and cable tied where it can be visually seen 20 mil from the bottom. Make sure that's all current. Hopefully it's a simple thing that you've just got slightly low fuel, and a quick turn of the engine should move that fuel around. Next thing relates to voltage. In the installation manual, we do refer to 4mm cross diameter cable and 6mm cross diameter cable. Different suppliers might refer to gauges, strands. It's important to use the correct comparison as to what we refer to in cross millimeter squares. 4mm squared is for shorter runs, 6mm squared takes you up to 7 meters maximum length. Check the maximum length of your cable is within the tolerance of the current draw. Our boilers are protected by a 20 amp fuse, slightly higher than the gas that you might see. That's only got a 10 amp fuse, but diesel boilers do require heavier cable and a heavier fuse. So if there is a voltage problem, just double check that the fuse is intact and that you haven't exceeded any lengths or diameters of the cable. So that's the vehicle all installed, commissioned, you're all fueled up, ready for your first outing. When you're on your first outing, if you do have any questions at all, remember our customer service team are available at the end of email, customerservices@trumauk.com, and we always aim to reply to you at the earliest opportunity.